What's up, humans? Welcome to the Human Music Podcast. I'm Luke Rain. My co-hosts are Tesco and Rip Kinney, and we are all music producers, artists, and producer coaches. This show is where we discuss all things music production and interview amazing creatives about their origins, their process, and whatever else comes up. This week is episode 123, but before I tell you about it, I just want to shout out the fact that for the first time in 122 weeks, last week we missed our episode drop. It was supposed to be this one, then we had it recorded, but there was a few things going on. Let me talk to you about alignment. 123 is a very aligned number, 1, 2, 3, and what was in alignment was not how well technology was working. We had some deep technical difficulties on this episode. The recording, the interview went great, but both our live stream to Producer Dojo TV, the Vimeo, crashed on us and didn't stream out, and our podcast recording software did not record. I kept clicking the record button and it did not record any audio. Luckily, I recorded the backup locally on my computer and the backup worked. But the audio is not as pristine as we're used to. We're going to roll with it. The conversation is so good. I'm sure that you'll be still happy listening to this. So that were some things that was out of alignment. What was in alignment was for me and these lovely ladies of Vibra Boemia and lots of our friends to go out to Heart Expansion Festival in Duvall, Washington and have an amazing time. We ended up staying late to help tear down the festival and hang with the last of our friends that were hanging all the way till Tuesday. And I went straight to doing an ecstatic dance DJ Tuesday night. And you know, this thing's supposed to drop late Monday night, early Tuesday morning. So this did not come out. I was not home between Wednesday and Wednesday morning again, so did not get this episode out on time, and we discussed it. You know, we've been getting way busier. Me and Tesco and Rip Kinney discussed it. We've been getting way busier post-pandemic as the world's opening back up. You know, working on music, releasing music, getting ready for a lot of big things that are coming. And we've decided that instead of releasing every single week, this is a good sign to check in with our own alignment and recognize that it's time for us to go to every other weekly release. And that'll give us a little more time to work on our own things while still bringing you top quality content and not skimping on the human music experience. And so I hope that you guys continue to enjoy the show just like you always have. Shouts out to all of our listeners, all of our humans. We love you guys so much. And you know, make sure you share with your friends. There's over 120 episodes of back content that they can catch up on. And, you know, at some point, maybe things will align differently and we'll roll back to a 1 episode per week format. If you guys are really itching for it, you let us know. But if you've been missing episodes and you're not all caught up, make sure you go catch up first and then ask us, yo, give me an episode every week. And if enough of you say so and reach out to us directly, we might just go back to that. You never know. We'll still be live on Dojo TV most of the time. It'll probably be a minute because I'm about to hit the road for a few weeks. But, you know, we're going to still do that, tapping with the Dojo community. And now back to what this episode is. Thanks for riding with me on that. I know this is the longest intro we've ever had, but I wanted to give you guys clear updates on where we're at as a team. So, like I said, this week is episode 123, Vibra Boemia on Alchemizing the Human Experience. Vibra Boemia is a duo consisting of Rebecca Elatiki and Yatri Soul. They make acoustic music, art, jewelry, and travel the country attending music festivals and medicine ceremonies. They told us the story of how they met twice in far corners of the world, what it's like working in an artistic team, what medicine music means to them, what alchemy means to them, and how it's different from healing, how travel has affected their worldview, stripping away the unnecessary to simplify music, recording music with Luke Rain, yours truly, speaking truth through music to be relatable, and making a living as a full-time artist. Song of the week is Vibra Boemia's Enter the Night. That is the first song I recorded for them, mixed and mastered, helped them arrange it, and then we got it out on the internet. It is on Spotify and everywhere else you'd want to listen to music. So links to that are below. I love this song, such a vibe. And we got some more coming already that are recorded, mixed, and mastered, ready for release. So make sure you follow them on Spotify to hear the music that we come out with next. And please, while you're down there, support our sponsors like the Spice It Up Percussion and Foley Pack, which is over 2,000 percussion loops and one-shots from your boy Luke Rain here and our friend Porch, along with 50 rack instruments for Ableton and Reason. You can get that on the producerdj.com website. There's also Dojo TV, where we often, if there's no technical difficulties, record this podcast live. You can get in the chat with us, and you can get live stream classes for free from other Producer Dojo senseis as well. Then Tesco's got his Patreon, where you can get access to his behind-the-scenes footage, Discord, track feedback, private lessons, and more. There's the weekly download, where you can learn from our mentor Il Gates and his private weekly group lessons and get access to over 250 more episodes in the archive for just $20 a month. Guest practices as well, where you can learn from Seth Drake at the Approach Institute. He's the best engineer we know, and your first class over there is free. You can get more episodes, socials, free sound packs, find our streaming, everything you need over at thehumanmusicpodcast.com. But without any further ado, after this 6-minute intro, let's get on into the episode.
Hello, people of Earth. This is Tesco with Rip Kenny and Trap Jesus, and you're listening to the Human Music Podcast. Woo!
Human Music Podcast. I like it. Yo, what's up, human? Hey, welcome back. Y'all
Let's
know
go.
what time it is. It's time for the Human Music Podcast. Live
I thought it was Thick 30.
on Dojo TV.
Yeah, and we're live.
Yeah,
Shout outs to chat.
Thick.
Big up.
Especially me, I'm skinny as hell, man. But yeah, here we are. We're back. It's good to see you guys again.
As always.
And shouts out to any ninjas we might have hanging out in the Dojo TV chat. Drop a meme, tell us you're here, drop a GIF. And I'm really excited today. We've got some of my favorite new friends in the studio. We've got my friends Vibra Boemia, aka Yatri and Rebecca. What's up, y'all?
Hey, y'all.
Welcome.
Hey, welcome.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, happy to have
Be part of
y'all.
your process.
So good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we start every episode off, and you'll figure out as a duo how to do this. But what is your superhero origin story? How did you become the amazing creatives that you are today? Make sure you speak up so these mics catch you. We got funny mics set up for three people with 2 mics and 1 camera.
Yeah, well, I think our origin story begins as individuals. Yeah, so I'm Rebecca, and Yatri and I have been co-creating in this project that we call Vibra Boemia for about, we've been on a hiatus, and we started it 2 years ago, I would say. And we kind of interweaved, we were roommates as we started that project, and then took different paths, and now we're kind of back in this unit and back focusing onto this project of just aligning our individual visions into this unified vision of getting able to share art, music, and this lifestyle of just getting to travel and connect and really living kind of our highest dream
Highest selves.
in this way. So do you want to share?
Yeah, I would say the origin started in Brazil. We met in Brazil, so that's why we have Vibra Boemia as our name.
What does that mean? Yeah.
Portuguese. It means bohemian vibes. And so we started out, it's been such a journey going out there to find our organic paths, and those overlapped in Brazil pretty strongly for both of us. So acknowledging that and really understanding that we found such a beautiful root and found each other out there, and then reconnected back here and really built Vibra Boemia from those individual journeys and findings into something that we wanted to bring back to the United States. We were both really inspired. And so, yeah, coming back here, just really understanding that there's so much out there. There's so much for us. And coming back here and wanting to embody that medicine in a way that we would remember, I think, first and foremost, and that also would be in a container that could be medicine for other people that maybe were searching for, getting lost to find themselves and could benefit from it. So part of it's music, part of it's art, our project, part of it's medicine. And it's all about alchemy. So we're just out here alchemizing our own experiences and our own pain and our own humanness, all the pieces of the human experience into a container that speaks to that and is relatable to all of the humans on the spectrum that are experiencing this beautiful human experience.
I love how many times you worked human into.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, really on brand. Like, did you practice that?
No, but you guys came to us in a moment truly where this has been coming to our attention of like, man, we've been working on connecting to the divine, and alchemizing all of the internal, things that you have to move through to get to that being your higher self. But then there's also going back down and remembering that it's constantly like coming back down into your humanness of how you got here. So just
the origin story, coming back to the origin story like over and over and over again, because sometimes it can feel like, oh well, I started here but now I'm like here, and it's like, wow, like that's awesome and amazing and like something like just so beautiful to witness. And then it's like, oh, and like we're constantly cycling back into like the mud. And am I allowed to curse on this podcast?
Fuck yeah.
Yes.
And that shit, coming back into this shit sometimes.
Yeah, so I would love for y'all, you've had this beautiful kind of origin. Y'all met in Brazil. Like how did it first come together? How did y'all meet? How did it first become a musical project?
I think I want to talk about that it was born of the medicine. I think that that's like part of it. I don't think that it became a musical project that incorporated the medicine, because that all came back around and was coming back around now. But we were in Brazil finding ourselves out there and becoming. And part of that was, using plant medicines and really getting in touch with nature. It was so much medicine of just like earth medicine, of being away from the city, being away from civilization, and like understanding, kind of experiencing life from an organic space. And I think we understood that and embodied that. We met just by passing each other by and recognizing each other while I was selling jewelry on the beach in Brazil, and she was doing, what were you doing?
I was in Brazil. I had gone there originally to live and work in an international community. It was a retreat center. It was a hostel, and they kind of did all sorts of various different like practices. And I through that journey, I got connected with a plant medicine space, and started playing music with them, and just kind of went on this whole journey of like really exploring like how you could use music, because I know that for my personal journey, music has been a part of my life since I was born, really. Like it was in my home, which I'm super grateful for. My mom was an opera singer, and she really,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, opera of all things too, right? But she really supported that in me, and I'm so grateful for that. And then too, it was like, well, I never aligned with being a performer, and so I was really blessed that I got to see music in this new way. And I think we really recognized each other in that moment. And then I came back to the States, Yatri came back to the States, and it was just sort of like this.
Same tiny little town. We didn't know.
Very synchronous.
Really?
I was her yoga teacher.
We both landed in Port Townsend, Washington.
Like my first yoga class in America.
And Port Townsend of
In
all
Port
places.
Townsend,
It's such a
Washington.
Yeah.
small
Yeah.
place.
Yes.
Which I just didn't even have any roots there. Like literally picked a place in the map and was like, I don't really have a home here because I've been gone for 7 years. And I was like, that'll do.
That's how you know it was meant to be.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's some
Like
cosmic
the
opportunity.
chances of that.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the music, I think the project though, and like the music being interwoven in that project, I think this project is just like really emphasizing like what makes us come alive, and so music is just a really strong piece in that.
It's a huge piece in that. It's
Yes.
what I think, like, for me, medicine, doing plant medicine helped me, and being in a different culture really helped it, like, shamanically come alive. And me, I didn't even know. I was like, that doesn't a part of me. And yeah, just like really seeing how through medicine and through just like being not having to look like any certain thing, just allowing that to come through and exploring that organically allowed it to come through, and then trying to figure out ways to be more sophisticated in the process.
That's what's up.
Very cool. So what would you say kind of inspires your music then? Like, where do you find your inspiration from? Is it just through going to these events regularly and like, or like, do you guys show each other new stuff, or like, how does it work for that kind of stuff? Like, where do you pull that inspiration from in terms of like what to create, or, you know?
I think so much of our music comes from like what we live, you know, of just being able to travel, being able to connect with people and have conversations and share like in this experience of what we feel like it means to be human, which, you know, sometimes our interpretation varies. And just being able and being willing to be present with the conversation. And yeah, it's also, yeah, again, like some shit sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of the music is about alchemizing like those deep experiences where you're really feeling something, and it's like, oh, this is, you know, we're going through this thing. Rebecca writes most all the songs, and she had them already, and so they've been, and the new ones are part of experiences that are coming from a place of like finding that medicine from the experiences that are happening right now, you know, but before it was what has been, and like how to bring that into life in a container that other people can benefit from.
So working in a duo, kind of continuing this thread, like when you're writing music, how do you guys kind of pass back and forth to like on like the nuts and bolts of the process? Like does one of you like to come up with melodies and the other likes to, you know, do more of the like the chords and harmony type stuff, or how does that work?
Yeah, what's the mechanics of the band?
The mechanics of the band. Nobody's ever asked us that before.
Yeah.
It's funny and interesting.
So I do most of like the songwriting, and then
Sure.
Yatri really influences kind of like the sort of like flavor of the music in terms of like how that can get translated, because obviously like I play guitar, and that's my primary instrument, and my voice, and that's kind of simple, but her vision is kind of a lot more like intrinsically connected, like with the elements and with just like that pulse of what we both share. And so it's sort of like, I don't know, I guess I could say like I kind of lay out the blocks of the pieces to work with, and then we collaboratively kind of arrange those blocks into what the music is.
So then, Yatri, do you play any instruments or sing, or?
Yeah, I do percussion, and so I play cajon and medicine drums and goat hooves and and bells and whatever, you know, like whatever rattles and things and rain sticks and whatever is like coming through, and a lot of like kind of shamanic instruments, and then some like more fun rock and roll stuff, but just bringing it mostly percussion, and then I like do like add some vocals to what Rebecca's laid down with her magic songstress writing skills.
Very cool. Very cool. I want to ask and elaborate a little more on, you guys keep using the word medicine And I want to learn a little bit more about what that means to you, and how do you know, like, how do you know the feeling of like when you got that in the music? Like, how do you go about finding that? How do you know when you're like on that?
Love
That's
that
a good question. Yeah.
I want to say something about channeling. I think that's what's coming through. Literally, it's like when I'm in this space, and I think that a lot of us get there with music, and it's so cool to be in a space like with Luke, where he's doing that when he's doing hip hop and rap and all these different kinds of music as well. That I had never really seen that in that container. And he's got all these beautiful different ways of expressing, his medicine. And I think it's like, I know I'm channeling medicine when I feel that it's not even like coming from a place of ego. It's not coming from a place of performance, but it's coming from a place of like true alchemizing something. There's something that's alchemizing through me.
Yeah. And like, so what do you, I use that word alchemizing a lot, but for our listeners that might not, what do you mean by alchemy?
We were talking about this earlier, and something that Yatri shared that I really loved was there's like this fine line between like healing and alchemizing, and they can kind of be used interchangeably, but I feel that the difference between healing and alchemizing is that sometimes, like for one example, like if you break your arm and if it wasn't set right, it would still heal, but sometimes it's not in like the healthiest way. And so for me, alchemizing is being able to acknowledge and kind of like take inventory of all the elements that are present in a situation, being able to know which ones you control, especially when it comes to your life and your lived experience, and how you identify and how you express, and being able to identify those pieces and be like, okay, this is mine to take ownership of, this is mine to take ownership of, and this maybe isn't, or this maybe like is something that's like, there's also that like quote of like having the patience to accept the things I can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think that piece of like just being able to discern what, because life is in flux, and life is always moving, but having, I think, that center of okay, this is my vessel, this is how it interacts with the world or interacts with other people, and really just taking ownership of that, and really taking inventory of the pieces, the stories, the emotions, the people, all of these things that create our life, and having the wisdom to know what we can change, and the patience to accept the things that we cannot.
I like that.
So there's a lot that goes into a word like that, and I love both of your explanations, because it's not what I would have said. I'm sure it's not what Luke would have said, and not what Tesco would have said, but it is like so correct in creative ways that I love. I like the definition of that just really kind of sparked creativity and just listening to it. So like,
Evan, I'm curious, what would your definition be?
Obviously it's tough on the spot, but I would say alchemy would be like taking dissimilar things, finding the common ground, and infusing them into each other in a way that multiplies the sum of the parts.
That's some synergy in there.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
That's a great scientific kind of a different explanation.
And I like philosophized on it.
I definitely see parallels like in the two explanations though.
Totally.
As well.
You got one, Nicola?
I mean, basically that same idea. It's like repurposing matter, repurposing experiences. It's like reduce, reuse, recycle, of life. And it's like take something that's like, maybe not as beneficial or as good or useful to you anymore, and don't just throw it in the background and let it accumulate and like cause build up, take it, repurpose it, make it into something.
Yeah.
Something fresh, something with new life.
Yeah, see, like I guess that's really what I was trying to say is on the surface, like when you said alchemy, like, you know, the two times before that, like in my head, like I understood where, like how it related to the brand. And then as you started explaining it, it kind of dawned on me that like it is deeper than just like a surface level meaning, and integrating that into like your philosophy for your music and your art is actually a beautiful thing, because it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And like people's personal alchemy can be related to what you do, but also individual to them. So like let's talk about the alchemy of your art a little bit, and like how the different components like flow into it. We've talked a little bit about the nuts and bolts of the music side, but let's go out a layer potentially, and like how does it integrate with the art side, and then maybe we'll take another layer into medicine after that.
So the question is how the process of alchemy comes into the art.
Yeah, I guess I kind of just use alchemy as a segue to like tell us about the other.
It's all connected for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we are both artists too. So we like what Vibra Boemia is, as I was telling you, we selling art on the beach in Brazil. I think it's all part of it. It's not just like music. It's like bringing that down into the telluric level, the earthly level of things. We both work with crystals, and we both work with really making, different elements, silver and brass and gold, and we wrap these things and we make art out of it, and that's a part of what we do. And then as we travel, we bring these things back, and so we make them as like international art and trade. And so that's a part of like our art. It's not just music, but it's actually like music, and then there's telluric treasures.
Wait, so what is international art and trade?
So we're both traveling around the world, and doing these things and finding ourselves and out there.
Oh, that was just like a broad. I thought
ourselves.
that was like a organization or something.
Art? What exactly?
No. You said international international art and trade.
Oh.
For some reason, I thought that was like an event or like.
I guess I say it all the time.
Just a broad concept. Yeah, got it.
Concept.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
You just saw the
So it's
TM
like
right
music.
next to it.
Yeah, it's
in
just
your
like
head.
so official sounding. I thought it was a thing.
I feel you on
I
that.
love that.
Okay, continue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, so making that, and then like doing all the other things of bringing, Rebecca does shamanic songwriting courses, and I do other things too, like astrology and tarot, and we bring a lot of different elements. And so there's esoteric arts, like those are also arts, and so it's like music, it's the physical arts, and there's the esoteric arts, and these are things that we've picked up out there, and we pull it together, and it's stuff that we bring into our music too.
I love how the music part of it is just like one facet of the gym.
Yes.
It's a lifestyle.
It is, yeah. Yeah, and we found each other, and we found a way to really, like, I think I said this earlier, but, I think there's maybe more context to be developed here. But, each of us had this lifestyle of just different, like, skills, different gifts, and different, like, preferences that we cultivated in our lives. And we found each other, and we're like, hey, like, we could really, like, continue living like this, but together, and do it like
I see you.
Yes, in like a bigger way, because we both have
you.
different tools to kind of navigate through life with, and we get to support each other doing that. And so, part of that is the music. The other part is being, the skill to travel. The other part is the skill to make money while you travel.
Yeah, life art.
Harder
is a
than it
part of
sounds.
Yes.
But actually, it's like it's like a whole
we're
art, dude.
hustling.
Like,
Yeah,
that's
it
an
is a
art.
hustle.
It's an art.
But we get to
Art,
do what we
life art.
love. So, I mean, in that way, it feels like, we are living our highest dream, like I said earlier. And so,
And then try to inspire, by anytime we do this thing where we're like, okay, I'm really going to say yes to me and live my highest life and find people that support that, then that enables the highest life of it right now. You know, it's like, okay, if I were to really do what I want to do, let's just do it. Then you, it inspires everybody else to do the same thing because people see you and that makes waves. And so that's part of what we want to do is like make bohemian vibrations of like, this is what we choose. It works for us, but like, what's your medicine?
Yeah.
What do you choose to do? And so part of that's like our dedication to ourselves, to be out there, and that's part of the medicine too. It's just simply being like, this is what we want to do with our life. Like maybe it doesn't work for you, but it works for us. This is what we want to do. This is our life art. That's yours. Yes. Like go out and do it. You can do it. You know?
And finding the medicine by living your most authentic life, and like by living on the path that you know you need to be on, finding those lessons for yourself and that growth for yourself, and then bringing it back.
And alchemizing all your negative self-talk and your trauma, you know, as you go, all the no, but that person did it, but I can't do it. Like I'm bringing you back into that the humanness of it, which is the art of living too. And that's understanding that like, no, like, yeah, I didn't come from, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Rebecca both and I have that in common. It was not easy. It was really hard. And we came from some shit, but the lotus flower blooms from the shit, and like here we are. You know what I mean?
So it seems like you have a really unique experience, like just the fact that you could just like pick somewhere to move to and like be totally okay with that. That level of like disattachment is not a common thing, and if anything, it seems like the opposite is true, where people are really attached and really familiar where they're at, and they end up kind of staying there their whole lives. I'd love to hear a little more insight into kind of what you learned about people in general, or like life just through going through that lifestyle. Obviously, it seems like both of you have a very articulated kind of worldview from that, but I'd love to like just get a little more specific with like how do you think you see the world differently or people differently compared to people that haven't lived like that?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, I'm getting deep.
Here we go.
That's so good, and I really want to collect and say it in a way that like it makes it relatable. But I guess like the best way that I can answer that is I found out that I can do anything, and so for you, like if we let ourselves, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. You know, it doesn't mean it's going to be comfortable, but you can. And I can, and I know I can, and I know I can go anywhere, and I can excel anywhere, and I can survive anywhere. And what I'm trying to figure out how to do, guys, thrive anywhere, doing anything. I can do anything I want to do. But I think that's the answer. It's like you really, and I'm still I'm still working on embodying that medicine. Is like, can I be a musician? Can I like what? Like, and you know, can I be an artist? Can I just like, can this just be what I do and I don't have another backup plan? It's like, can this just be it? And the answer is yes, and it's hell yes. And we have to believe in it, and a lot of that comes from just experience. So it's like going out there and going out there and experiencing it, and there's that saying, if you're too afraid to lose sight of the shore, you'll never really explore, you'll never really get to discover. And so letting go of our attachments, it might be like a rough ride. You might get seasick, you might like shipwreck, and that's all like okay, it's a part of the process. But what you learn is like you learn all these other things along the way, and you also discover islands and cities and languages and wealth and poverty and wealth again, and it's all okay.
Seems like you're very open to like starting new and exploring, and like you don't let attachment really like stop you from seeing what else is out there.
Oh, I do every time I fall in love.
That's a human thing though.
Yeah.
That's a human thing. We all do that.
Yeah.
It is a human thing, and that's okay too.
And you need medicine.
And then I need medicine, and I'm like, help, heal my broken heart. And I'm not alone.
Hey, makes for good songs.
We write songs about it, and I'm like, gosh, she wrote so many good songs about that. Yes.
Yeah, and I think for me to answer that question, I feel like what I have learned, like I had so many questions about karma when I started my journey, and about like what each person is like here to do, and like what I'm here to do. And I think there is some clarity that's come through that in just terms of like what lights me on fire, but it's also like just total acceptance of like what other people's paths are, just like, and whether or not I agree with that, it's just like that's their journey and their path, and like just like giving up the fight too, and just like being at peace with exactly the way that the world is, because there's complexity in all of it, and there's beauty in all of it. And I was the queen of like trying to change like what I could change, like super involved in like all sorts of stuff. But yeah, just like acknowledging like our individual journeys, and acknowledging like that subtlety of like what makes us come alive, and pursuing that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that. So it seems like medicine is almost just like this universal kind of thing to the human experience. From the way that you two are describing it, it's like through just enough built up life experience, it's like you need to kind of be not constantly taking it, but in a sense, constantly like reworking these experiences into something fresh. And it seems like your music process is very much like you channel that through you. It's not so much that you two are writing it. Yeah,
definitely. For me, it also feels like simplifying, like stripping down into like the foundation. So it's like stripping like what is unnecessary, and like what maybe sometimes there's like confusion, or there's like whatever these things that cloud our vision can be, whatever they are. It feels like just like stripping and like being continuously participatory in that process of like, I am here for like the roots, so it's a process of like, yes, I guess surrendering to like, constantly participating again and again with like the new, but also the old. Yeah.
Interesting. So you two are recording with Luke a bit now, yeah? What's that process like? What is your music kind of like? Is it like accessible kind of format, or is it more experimental? Is it seems like it's very organic based, and there's a pool of influences that you go through, but in terms of like, what would the listening experience be like in terms of, from my point, is this something I would be like jamming in the car? Is this something I would be listening to during a more intimate kind of moment? Is it like how describe that a little more for me? Like what are you trying to get across with like working with Luke, and what are these songs going to be like?
So I feel like it's again kind of that process of like stripping down into like the roots, which is like what's relatable. And obviously, what's true for me might not be true for, Evan. It might not be true for Nicola. It might not be true for Luke, and it might not be true for Yatri. But the essence of like that individual and like, really like moving through that process of getting to that individual truth is there. And if people resonate or not with that, it's like, people resonate, beautiful. If not, blessings, And I think the container that I've really grown as an artist has been in plant medicine ceremonies. I've sang a lot for ayahuasca circles in Brazil and Mexico, and I love learning the songs and singing the songs, but my music is my life. And so there's like this sort of interweaving of these two experiences coming into this single thread that is the music, and it is more organic, and I love that because I think that's always relatable, and again it's like coming to those roots, and I think there's if I can say this like in a way that's I feel like it's not going to sound very like humble, but I feel like, you know, in this
That's okay, talk your shit.
In this process of like alchemy, there's like a there's a psychological and spiritual evolution that I have seen in myself that is happening, and I'm translating that evolution. Yeah, because if I'm to be honest, like I started writing music, you know, just I was at a point in my life where I was 14 years old, I was in foster care, my mom was in jail, and my dad was bankrupt in Morocco, you know? So that was like, just like where that bed of emotion came from. And, you know, there's a huge process of alchemy that's happened in that. But it's also really come into light, you know, into like community, and like, that's the space I want to be in, and I want to like help connect people in.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty emotionally dense place
Yeah.
to come from. I'm sure words were not hard to come by to write lyrics in those times. Do you find it is easier to write songs in those moments that are difficult, or those moments that are filled with exuberance and positivity, or is it somewhere in between?
I love both.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm here for. Both.
totally.
Yeah.
It almost feels like not almost, it definitely feels like a lot of musicians come usually from some emotionally charged place to whatever degree, because music is kind of this language that can describe a bunch of things that words can't quite connotate properly. We have all these very specific connotations: happy, excited, ecstatic, all these different words, but none of them can quite explain a certain emotion like music does. And it feels like, especially the more niche genres, but music just as a whole comes from this very emotionally charged place, and it kind of feels like it's a way for people to put something out into the world to see if other people relate with that, because there is almost like some medicine, you could say, in relating with somebody else, feeling that somebody else understands you, because it's not so common in the everyday world. So that's why, especially with niche artists, it's like you see somebody with a t-shirt on out and you're like, oh, I like your shirt, and you start talking and instantly like become friends, is because you're like, oh, if you like that artist, you must also get me on some deeper level than the average person.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting, and I see how that would have affected you, especially in such a transformative like period of your life, having so much coming at you, having to process so much, and then everybody needs some sort of release from somewhere, some sort of medicine. Music is like the perfect kind of way to, I don't know what word you both like to use, but you could say cure that, or kind of fill that void.
Alchemize.
Alchemize, yeah. I'm thinking in terms of medicine, you know, but yeah, alchemize is like, that's such a good way to put it. And yeah, I think, you know, the alchemizing part for me personally, and I wonder what your viewpoint is on this, but it's like a personal thing where it's like I can take it for me and make it into this other thing, but when somebody else actually understands it, or you connect on that deeper thing, it's like a different kind of feeling. It's more of a connection rather than a release. I feel. I'm curious to hear what you think about that. Does that resonate?
Yeah, I think it totally does. I think for me, it feels like continuing that thread, maybe that root of, just like that we're all fucking human, we're all fucking here, we all have fucking emotions.
Yeah.
And it's complicated experience.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to make it like just saying like, hey, speaking to that experience and that complicated experience and making it relatable. Like, I think that's, I've always kind of thought about music as a platform to be able to say, hey, here is the process that, you know, we're going through, have been through, can relate to. Here's us, and it's also to speak like your truth about it and to share your experience. That's something that we're excited to work on as we play more. It's like sharing more of our story and being more vulnerable about like really where we're coming from and why we're out there. And like, it's not just like this, you know, these two girls that are playing this beautiful music. It's like we're out here like sharing our souls, and we're like, hey, is there anybody out there that needs to hear this? So I would also want to go back and answer your question about where do you want to listen to this music? Like in your car? Heck yeah, rock out to this music in your car. It's going to be calling to you if you feel it, you know, and it's for that. It's like we're recording it so that it can just be out there so that the people that need to hear it, you know, that's the trusting that it's channeling the medicine, is making it more accessible, making the medicine more accessible through the words, obviously. Like we're all creating something, and then having it be wherever it needs to be. And that could also be like literally when you're in your room and just really trying to figure something out, or when you're wanting to do like a plant medicine ceremony, all of the above.
Cool. I wanted to ask, because it seems like you two have really good chemistry.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about each other, and one thing that like each of you, that the other person does musically that like you really admire?
Oh, that's sweet.
What our favorite thing is about each other?
I love that we're like always pushing each other. I'm a total perfectionist, and I love that Yatri like is always just like pulling me back into that realm of just like exploration and play and expression, and just like really keeping it, you know, in, you know, because yeah, I mean, this energy can be dense and it can be heavy, and I can like have this like direction of where I want to go and what I want it to sound like, but then it's like Yatri can also help keep it light and playful, and I think, you know, our spirits naturally just like to play with each other
and challenge each other.
Yes. Yeah, I think we strike a really good balance of that.
I love Rebecca's depth. I think that I love her voice, and I love her vocals, and I love the way that she, you know, just really can embody the purest essence of the process. Yeah. And I think that that's so beautiful, and that's something that I just so admire, and can so support and get behind and be like, fuck yeah, let's go, girl, let's go get it out there. It is medicine. Like I love her medicine. I see it, and I can we have like, I understand too, like I think those are my favorite, and it can be ugly sometimes to be in the medicine, or it can be beautiful, you know, and it's like you can choose to make it artful. And I think that I really love how Rebecca does it artfully. So, and she's brave. It's important. Like I push her sometimes. She pushes me too, more into like sophisticated containers, and she's brave when I'm like, hey, and like, let's get messy. Let's get wild.
Good balance.
So speaking of being brave, and touching back on a conversation from earlier about being unattached and letting things go, one of the things a lot of musicians stick attached to that you might be letting go of is the idea of having like a day job, like that safety net. And I'd love to hear your guys' journey about where you are with that concept currently.
Yeah. Well,
we just quit all our day jobs, and we
yeah,
just like burned all. We just
Hell
flipped the tables and burned it all down.
we didn't burn it all down.
Well, we didn't burn it all down, but
we
you know,
gracefully
Metaphorically
parted ways. Yes.
Yeah.
no,
Well,
we did it really gracefully and intentionally, I would say.
Yeah. So for myself personally, I I entered like the career path, or whatever you know, just life, I guess, as a humanitarian. I was because of, you know, so much of what I lived, I was really involved in trying to alleviate other people's sufferings. And so I
Martyr.
I like went to India and I was working with orphans there, and I was doing resource coordination for houseless youth and involved in like foster care advocacy and all this stuff, and it was good work, and I got to a point where COVID hit, and just need really rose, and psychological neuroses really rose, and at least in the organization that I was working with, there wasn't a whole lot of support for the staff, and there wasn't a whole lot of support like even for the people. And so I really kind of confronted this, like, am I going to stay in this path and really sacrifice a lot of inner well-being to try to help people? And it felt like, trying to scoop water out of like a sinking ship, where you have like one little bucket and you're like, shoo, 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 and it's just like the ship is going down, it's like. And so I was, in that question, and I closed up all of my caseload, and I assisted as much as I could, and then I began putting one foot in front of the other on this path of just seeing how art can sustain my individual journey.
And how's that been going for you, Rebecca?
It's been really, really, really beautiful, and I'm so grateful that I've done it. And I think I just want to, especially for, the other people who can relate to my story, it's like, there are other ways to do this, and I don't think martyring yourself is the way to do it. And I also think that, it's a beautiful heart to try to go into the system and, like, really create change there. And I also think that for a lot of us, that isn't the way. And I'm here to just like walk the way that is right for people who share that same soul heartbeat with me, and learn from the people ahead of me as well, and just continue on, because it's been great.
Yeah. So I know that a lot of people listening are probably wishing they could have the courage to do the same thing, and also probably like not sure how the nuts and bolts of trying to make money as an artist work. So I guess what are the things that you found to to move the needle for you in making a living as an artist, or just any tips for people? Because really the genesis of this entire podcast, like the roots of this podcast, are going from having a hobby or a passion in music to like trying to get to the fullest extent of what you're trying to achieve. And we found that most people just skip the nuts and bolts. And we really want to give as much actionable, like you can do this too, advice. So in as much detail as you'd like, just, how you making it work.
So I personally, I've been doing this try to live, as an artist for like 10 years. And sometimes I try to go back to having a job or like doing something I don't want to do, but it feels like the safe thing to do. And sometimes that is what you have to do. And I just want to speak to that and like validate that.
Totally.
And it never lasts very long because I've already seen and I know another way. And as far as what that other way is, I don't think it's putting all of your eggs in one basket as far as like, especially as you get started with like, if it's music. I do, however, think that if you're trying to work a 9-to-5 job, a full-time job, or even a part-time job at something that you really don't feel aligned with and is taking up a bunch of your time and energy, it's going to be very difficult for any of us, unless you're, very organized, which is like the select few, 10% of the population or so, to put enough energy and effort into your art to make it something that stands on its own 2 feet. So I think it has to have, I think that that's an interesting balance and walk for a while. I think to find like, when you find yourself in your 9-to-5 jobs, part-time, usually it's like go from full-time to part-time, right? This is what we do. And then we're like, after the being part-time, could I just sustain it? And I think that that's part of the process, is saying like, okay, do I have some savings? You know, both of us, like, I always like try to work with having, and I'm not just going to let myself. And so ask me how I know, like, don't do that. Like, I've done it so many times, you know, showed up back and forth towns with $400. It's not the way to do that. Don't do that. But you can't do that. I mean, if that's what you have to do to like push yourself to go and learn, but I'm not trying to say that's the way for everyone to do it. It could be the way for you. It also could be that you need to have $10,000 or $100,000 in your bank account to do this. I don't need to, and I don't think you do either, but it depends. Like, everybody has to look at their situation. Do you have a family? What do you got? What are your responsibilities? What do you want to take on as your responsibilities, as you say, I want, you know, to be an artist? And a heartist, like, where's my heart at? And where your heart at is where you're going to find abundance and prosperity and excel. And sometimes that might mean you have to find a different source of income to fulfill your art and your heart path. And sometimes it means you have to put enough into your heart and your art path to really lift it off the ground. And in my personal case, and in Rebecca's personal case, we talked about it. We've got different elements. It's not just, we make jewelry and we sell it, you know, and we are musicians and we hold retreats and courses, and like, we got our stuff out there, and like, we got more work to do. But I definitely would say it's like a lot of work that you're working for yourself, you know, working for somebody else. So it's like, are you willing to put in the work to work for yourself? Do that first, maybe, and then when you see that starting to take off, then start saying, you know, and usually those things start to kind of say goodbye. Like, they'll start to leave you behind, or you leave them behind, in the process of really putting energy. Energy goes where energy flows, and so put energy towards where your heart's at, you know.
I think it's also about like acknowledging that we can't do this alone, and I think that's why like our dynamic works so well, is because, you know, we have that like one person who, you know, we have this project with. We also live together, and we have lived together before, and so, you know, it is like our lifestyle, but it's also like, even outside of us, even just like our little like container, it's like a relationship too. It's like, you can't just have like one person in your life and think that like things are going to be okay, you know. It's like, you know, you need that support from other people. Yeah. And whether it's like, you know, Luke is helping us record, we couldn't record on our own, you know, like, just, and all these pieces of like, maybe it's marketing, maybe it's networking, you know, maybe it's the financial aspect, maybe it's the creative, whatever like your weakness is, like being able to identify like what your strengths and weaknesses are, and also being able to identify like who the people are who can help lift you up, so that you're not doing it alone, because that is a big feat, and that's a little too much.
Yeah. So obviously, one thing that I wanted to stress that you mentioned is like having different streams of income, different ways to sustain yourself, and then combining them all into a sustainable path. Because, you know, one might be popping off now, and then 2 weeks from now that dries up, and another one's going well. What would you say like the one that pays the bills for you guys right now is, and like how does that one, is it, you know, is it the jewelry, or like what is it and how does it work?
I would say that for me and for like us as well, like individuals and together, I think we both work really seasonally. So in the summer times, jewelry is like our huge money making thing, which is really great. And then also we do have like our own individual, you know, kind of outlets that we, you know, because we do have different gifts and different talents and strengths and weaknesses, we have different ways to channel that. And so, I mean, some other avenues, I guess, if you want kind of like more details on that, is like, I have been teaching yoga, I have been building websites for people, and I teach songwriting. Cool. I was also like working with a production company to DJ. That was like my part-time thing. But you know, those are kind of, and it's like learning to kind of be in flux with all of those. And obviously like what you say yes to will change like what like monetary kind of like spectrum you have to work with, you know, because like as we are on the road more, we obviously like are hustling more because gas is more, you know. And so it's like when I first left, my 9 to 5, though, I'll say that like a big thing that I really looked at was like the reason why I was consuming. And so because I was so stressed and because I was making more money, I was like, oh, well, I'm going to buy myself this nice thing because I deserve it. Or I'm going to go out for drinks, maybe a little more than I should be because I've been working hard and I deserve it, And it's like, when you cut that from your life, like really look at like why you're choosing to consume so much. And so for me, consumption and like coping was very related. And I think that's a really big part of the journey too, of really looking at and simplifying like, your lifestyle.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
another
No, that's huge.
Go up, huh?
Yeah, that is huge. Yeah.
I think a lot of people, maybe don't want to admit to themselves or maybe it's too glaringly obvious and you just look right by it. But like trying to figure out how to make more money or make money from something that is difficult making money in, that's hard. Trying to figure out how to spend less of the money that you have. It is equally hard,
Yeah.
but it's also more in your control. And although it might take more, willpower to reduce the way that you're used to living, ultimately it is a bigger, surefire way to succeed in doing something you want to be doing, because it's under your control, because you know exactly how you can and what to cut out. But yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that. It's a big one.
And I'm sure we could talk for hours on this stuff, but I'm actually coming up on time here, humans. So we'll have y'all back sometime. Y'all invited back. And yeah, tell the humans how they can find you on the internet and follow you.
Yeah, well, our collective project is Vibra Boemia.
Spell that for the
So we spell it Vibra space Boemia.
Vibra Boemia.
So we're on Instagram and we're on Facebook. And I'm Yatri Soul. You can find me on yatrisoul.com. And then this is Rebecca Elatiki. And you can find her at RebeccaElatiki.com.
Yeah, if you just type in Rebecca Elatiki, that's my name.
Yeah, we'll have links to all that right down below in the show notes, humans.
Beautiful.
All right. And then,
Well, thank you both for taking the time to come on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time. It was really beautiful.
And
Yeah,
being
thank
in
you
this,
guys.
Beautiful,
Likewise.
creative conversation. It was really, really fun.
yeah.
I'll put the bow tie on there, Luke.
Oh yeah, how we do it. Everybody give them a piece. And then a peace among worlds. Deuces.
Thanks, y'all.
Peace.
Woo! I like it.
All right, humans, thank you so much for being here with us. Thanks for, being patient with us while we took a week off for the first time. And thanks for understanding that, we're going to be on every other week basis for a minute here. Alignment is alignment. 1, 2, 3, baby, right in a row. And thanks to Vibra Boemia for being here with us. I absolutely love these ladies. They're wonderful humans, wonderful musicians, and great travel and festival buddies, to tell you the truth. Probably do a episode next on my experience at Heart Expansion Festival. That just might be what next week episode is. We'll see when I record it tomorrow. And let's see. Make sure you go check out their song of the week. That's Enter the Night that we recorded and released just recently. Very proud of that song. I love the tune. Very alchemical and medicine-y, about the alchemy of the human experience, taking, a tough situation in a relationship and learning the deep lessons from it. I think we all can relate to that. While you're down there, please support our sponsors. Spice It Up Percussion and Foley Pack from Luke Rain and Porch. Over 2,000 percussion one-shots and loops and 50 rack instruments for Ableton and Reason. Dojo TV, where you can get free producer live stream classes from the Dojo Senseis. Tesco's Patreon, where you can get behind the scenes footage from Tesco, Discord, track feedback, private lessons, much more. The weekly download from Ill Gates, where you can get private weekly group lessons and get access to over 300 episodes. We're about to do episode 300, y'all. That's crazy. Shouts to Ill Gates for sticking with that for so long, every single week. I know now that it can be hard to stick to something every single week. Hey, we did it for a long time, though. I'm proud of us. And then guest practices, where you can learn from Seth Drake at the Approach Institute. He's the best engineer we know, and your first class is free. All right, get more episodes, socials, free sound packs, etc. at thehumanmusicpodcast.com. And until next week, when we're talking about whatever we're talking about, I guess 2 weeks from now. Whew, gotta learn that. That's gotta take a little time for me to get used to that. Whew. Peace. I'm used to this part though. And peace among worlds.